good evening. Yes, I know it's complicated. If you're discussing it over dinner, you probably give up after 10 minutes. But in essence, what is it all about? It's about Christopher Berry, an academic, Christopher Cash, a former parliamentary researcher. They were charged under the Official Secrets Act of 1911 of acting and providing information that was prejudicial to the safety and interests of the state. And yet, in September, the Director of Public Prosecutions decided to drop the case and not move ahead. Now, we're told this is all because the Deputy National Security Advisor, a man called Matt Collins, a civil servant, put in some written words suggesting that basically their behaviour didn't meet the bar for a prosecution. That kind of gets to the heart of what was discussed at Prime Minister's Questions yesterday. And this was the last question that Kemi Badenoch, the Leader of the Opposition, asked. And I think this perhaps forms the kernel of where this debate will go over the course of the next week.
On Monday, the Security Minister repeatedly told the House that ministers did not take decisions, that it was the Deputy National Security Advisor who had full freedom. Is the government seriously saying that only one man, the Deputy National Security Advisor, had anything to do with this failure? Is he seriously saying that the Deputy did not discuss with the National Security Advisor, did not discuss with the Home Secretary or with anyone in Downing Street? Is the Prime Minister seriously saying that?
Yes.
So there you are. So what was this statement that was given by the civil servant? Well, Collins said, "It is important for me to emphasise, however, that the UK government is committed to pursuing a positive relationship with China. The government's position is that we will cooperate where we can, compete where we need to, and challenge where we must." And that bore a remarkable similarity to the Labour manifesto of 2024, which said, we will cooperate where we can, compete where we need to, and challenge where we must. So, what is going on here? Is it that this government, and many would argue actually the government before and much of the British establishment have gone just completely soft on China? But the nub of this is, did the Prime Minister mislead the House? Please give me your thoughts, give me your views. Tweet #Farage on GBNews or email farage@gbnews.com. I am joined in the studio by Alistair Heath, editor of the Sunday Telegraph, and John McTernan, former political secretary to Tony Blair. Let's begin with the case for the prosecution. Alistair, I have to say, I sat there and I thought, it's literally impossible that something of this magnitude could have literally only been known about by a civil servant in government and not somebody further up the chain.
Yes, I mean, this makes absolutely no sense, right? So either you entrusted a relatively junior or not sufficiently senior civil servant to take massively important decisions, and literally nobody knew anything about it. The government didn't talk to him, he wasn't briefed, and so on and so forth. He just happened by coincidence to copy and paste part of the Labour manifesto into his answer, OK, that's one possible...
Upon which the Director of Public Prosecutions decided there was no case to continue.
That's right. So that's one possible option, which means that the government is failing disastrously because it's the government's responsibility to engage in these sorts of issues, or the government's not telling the truth, and there's a massive cover-up and the Prime Minister misled the House. We do not know this, but in my view, it stinks, right? It smells very, very fishy.
Isn't the problem here? It's a little bit like the Boris Johnson case. Did Boris mislead the House over passes? To actually prove that someone knowingly misled the House is a very, very high bar, isn't it?
Yes. So, we need to see emails, we need to see correspondence, we need to see people testify effectively and give their version of what's happened. I just don't like the way this looks. And you compare this to the Boris Johnson situation, where, that was about cake and parties. This is about something extremely serious.
Yes, but, Alistair, whilst I agree with you, actually, ultimately, the nub of this is, was he telling the truth yesterday?
Yes.
And whether it's cakes or spies...
Yes, but it's about a very serious issue.
Have you had a random call lately from a strange number, maybe trying to sell you something or even scam you? If so, your info could be out there. That's because of data brokers, shady companies that scrape the internet for your personal details and sell them to marketers or even scammers. These days, scammers can even use AI to mimic your friends' voices and trick you into sending money. It's not just annoying. Data brokers often target vulnerable people with high-interest loans or sketchy offers. But there is a solution. Incogni, the sponsor of this video. Incogni contacts data brokers on your behalf and requests your info be deleted from their databases. And because your data can keep popping up, Incogni keeps sending removal requests to make sure it stays gone. They've just launched a new unlimited plan with custom removals. If you find your info on a weird website, just send them the link and their privacy team will work to get it taken down. Getting started is easy. Hit the link in the description, create your account and let Incogni handle the rest. It's risk-free for 30 days and you'll get 60% off an annual plan with the code GBNews. Take back control of your data with Incogni.
Absolutely, I
agree with you, Nigel. Telling the truth to Parliament is the ultimate thing that all ministers have to do, even the Prime Minister. And that is fundamental because in our Constitution, it is the Commons, the legislature, which sits above the executive. They have to be held accountable. Mm-hmm. And if you actually commit the ultimate sin, you need to go. In my view, Keir told the truth. And Keir, as a lawyer, it's very clear from me, the way whenever I've worked with him and spoken to him, he took the approach that prosecution should be completely separate from politics. So no minister got involved in this, no political advisor got involved in this. And the issue is, the National Security Advisor is
Jonathan Powell. So do you actually believe it's credible that his deputy could file this to the DPP on one of the most important espionage cases for decades and not tell his boss?
Well,
do you actually believe that?
I actually do believe that because I believe in the separation between the most senior ranking civil servant in the national security apparatus, the Deputy National Security Advisor, and the political side of it, because I think that is the way that Keir thinks, that's the way he acts. And I think it's actually right. Politicians and political appointees should not be involved in decisions about prosecution. For me, the question, I read the 1911 Act and the 1989 Official Secrets Act this morning in preparation for this. I find it hard to see why badly informed gossip about the internal workings of the Conservative Party can in any way seem to be an official secret. And I read Matthew Collins' statements, and he makes a very strong argument, the strongest I think you can make, to say, well, actually, this is human intelligence. It's intelligence about how the way people think, the way they act, who's in, who's out, who's up, who's down. And that's very helpful for any security services to have secret information, official secrets, but also to get the human intelligence. I just think you get the sense from Matthew Collins and stuff, everything is weak. And they're trying to hang this on a Labour government having a civil servant who puts in a lengthy statement. He puts saying the Labour government's policy about China is this, and this. It's the Labour government's policy. It's no longer a manifesto, it's a government commitment. But I don't think the Tory government could disagree with, we will cooperate on big international issues where we can.
No, that's fine,
where
John.
we must. And
that's fine, John.
The policy itself is not a smoking gun.
But the credibility here, I mean, Alistair, if your deputy on the Sunday Telegraph decided there was a massive front page news story, and he decided to put it all over the front page, he would actually tell you, wouldn't he, as the editor?
Yes, I think he would, yes. And I think it certainly would be my job to constantly be asking what's going on, and the conversation would have to go
therefore,
both
to
ways.
me, it's not credible.
Yes. No, I agree.
I do not think couldn't have known.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's credible. I don't think it's credible that no one asked any questions and no one was told anything, that people were working silos, that I just don't buy it.
It's not credible, John. It just isn't credible.
But I don't think we have a system where politicians direct the prosecution of cases.
I'm talking about Jonathan Powell here in particular. I do not see how his deputy can submit this, probably knowing that the DPP will drop the case and not tell the boss.
Can I apologise?
I mean, you've worked inside Downing Street.
Apologising for the pun. There are Chinese walls that operate.
But the problem...
Hang on. There may be Chinese walls, and there ought to be Chinese walls, but not between the boss and his deputy.
I think particularly when political interference would be regarded as a reason for if it was tried, it could cause the collapse for trial. In this case, I believe the CPS are the ones who should be being asked, why did you fail to put together a case?
Because of the submission that was made. I don't know.
I mean, in a way, I do quite enjoy parts of the blob turning on other parts of the blob, and the former DPP criticising the current DPP, and they're all a bunch of lefty lawyers, and, that part is quite amusing.
Who are these lawyers who have betrayed our country?
But I just don't think this is a credible situation. I think clearly something very fishy is happening. And also, I mean, why would this be happening? Let's not forget that the Labour government is desperate to find cash, to attract investment, to attract funding for their projects, for their green environmental projects, all that sort of stuff. The British establishment doesn't know how to create growth in this country. They think the only way to make sure the economy survives is effectively to attract cash from overseas.
Let's remind ourselves where this all started. Let's see the photograph. Let's see the photograph of David Cameron, shall we? Yes, David Cameron enjoying a pint in the local pub. There we are. This is where it all went wrong, Alistair.
Is that the time when he left his daughter in the pub?
No, a different time. It was a different time.
Did
we get all this wrong?
Yes, we did. Look, we were incredibly naive, right? And many people fell into that trap. Many people who've subsequently changed their minds. It's okay to change your mind, to get it wrong and change your mind. The point is, the establishment across the West thought it's the end of history. Capitalism has come to places like China, and they thought this would automatically lead these countries to become liberal democracies,
it's a new phase.
Friends of the West, supporters of individual liberty, all that kind of stuff. We misread it. It was not what was happening. They were basically weaponising a version of the free market to become much more powerful, and now we know from what MI5 have just said that they're relentlessly spying on us and so on.
Alistair, it's a benefit for capitalism, and I support capitalism. It's a benefit for capitalism to integrate as many countries into a global capitalist system with global rules. And I think
provided they don't steal them and don't cheat.
The engagement with China was an important part of bringing China into the global community. We don't impose through the WTO or other treaties types of democracy. We have to deal with countries.
But I think we were naive because we thought we would change them. They are trying to change us.
I think that's right. We opened up to them just over 20 years ago, and they've been taking us for a ride, in my view. However, I'm going to predict this will not bring the Prime Minister down or bring the government down. What say you?
Well, I still think it could, or I think at the very least it could bring some people down. It all depends what information emerges. It depends whether, emails emerged or conversations
You've got to pass
emerged.
the bus stops test. You've got to be able to express what the problem is to somebody in a bus queue and then go out and get it.
Well, you don't actually need to do that. You just need to demonstrate that Parliament's been misled. Yeah. If someone is able to demonstrate
that is ultimately
I agree with that point. I think all three of us agree. Misleading Parliament is the ultimate sin. I don't think it happened.
I suspect proving that the Prime Minister willfully misled the House is the difficult part. Yeah. Folks at home, I hope we've made it a little bit simpler for you. I know it's difficult.